Hey everyone, and welcome to Chef AJ Live. I'm your host, Chef AJ, and this is where I introduce you to amazing people like you who are doing great things in the world that I think you should know about. We are going to have a fabulous cooking demo today by one of PCRM's cooking instructors, Angelita Hughes. Please welcome her to the show. I'm so excited because you are making some food that sounds amazing.
Yes, good. Hey, Chef. Yeah, so I am Mexican American, and of course, Mexican food is me. And growing up, all the Mexican food that I ate was lots of lard, lots of meat, lots of cheese, heavy creams. And when I became plant-based, I was like, oh no, I no longer can have my favorite Mexican foods. And well, I was determined that yes, I was gonna keep eating my Mexican food, and so then I learned how to cook without oil, very little salt, if none at all, really, and sugars I cut out. So because of watching you, I've learned about the dates, using dates, and I had no idea how much I would fall in love with dates. They are just, oh my goodness, they are so good. And I've learned how to use applesauce in lieu of oil when I'm baking and bananas. I just saw one of your shows where you made the cinnamon rolls or like a cinnamon cupcake. And I was like, oh, goodness gracious, that's the next thing I'm going to make. So those look really good. But today I'm making gorditas, which is a corn masa patty. And I'm going to stuff it with black beans that I'm going to season with roasted cumin, black lime powder, and what else? I'm using paprika and a little bit of this roasted salsa that I'm going to make. So I'm going to make a roasted salsa with Monsanto peppers. Depending on what part of Mexico you're from, they're known as manzanos, canarios, or perron. But this is what they look like. So kind of looks like a little bell pepper. So this is when it's still green. Then just like tomatoes, it starts getting a little bit lighter. Then it gets yellow. So they call it manzano because it looks like an apple. And so for my salsa, I've already got it prepped here. So I lined my basket from my air fryer with aluminum foil, but there's parchment paper in here because I want to capture the juices from when this roast. So I've got Roma tomatoes, which they call jitomate in Spanish. I've got tomatillos, which is the little green tomatoes and the little husk. I've got white onion, because white onion really is the only thing that I use when I'm making my salsas. 6 garlic cloves, and for added heat and flavor, 1 serrano pepper. I'm gonna put this in there. So here is the chile canario or the Monsanto that I'm gonna be using. So I've already cleaned it out because you want to get rid of the seeds. The seeds in this pepper are really hard. So this is what it looks like when it's all cut up. It looks just like a yellow bell pepper.
Yeah, it looks exactly like a yellow bell pepper.
It's the flavor in these peppers though is just amazing. It's similar to a habanero, but a lot thicker and a lot bigger. The heat intensity is about the same, but this one, the heat doesn't linger, but it just gives you this beautiful smoky flavor. Okay, so I'm gonna put it in my air fryer. I've got the Ninja Foodie 5-in-1, and I've got it at roast, and the temperature I've got it at is 400, and I'm gonna leave it in here for about 10 minutes. One thing that I do with these peppers is I save the seeds and I just put them on a paper towel and let them dry. And then I plant them so I can grow my own peppers at home. So I'm a huge seed saver. And then when I started getting the little plant, the little pepper plant started coming up, it looks like I give those away to people, and then that way they can have their own little pepper plants at their house. You know, try to get them try to get people hooked on saving their seeds and growing their own food. Okay, so while that's roasting, I'm going to go ahead and start on the masa for the gorditas.
What does gordita literally mean?
Gordita means little fat one. It was so funny because growing up, my nickname was La Gorda, which was the fat one, because I was a chunky one. Well, no, I wasn't chunky, I was big. And so funny that I'm eating gorditas now. But so I'm using just a regular maseca, which is this brand right here, but I wanted to show you that it comes in blue and it also comes in yellow. So sometimes when I want to make gorditas in different colors, especially now with Easter coming up, I'm going to make some that are blue, but I'm going to shape them like an egg, and yellow ones. And then I'm going to use beet powder, and I'm going to make some red ones. And then I'm going to stuff those with cactus petals. So that's what I'm going to serve for Easter. So when you're making gorditas, you want to make sure and use warm water, as warm as you can handle it, but not out of your faucet. You want to be able to heat it up on your stove. I've tried it both ways, but heating it up on the stove for some reason works a lot better. I don't know what, that's some scientific stuff that I don't know. But many years of doing this, it always works better. And so there's two different types of measuring cups. So you've got the solid one and then you've got the liquid one. But because I'm not weighing my stuff, I'm using the same one so I can have the same amount of liquid to masa. That's why I'm using this one. So I've got 2 cups of masa in here. And then I'm going to start with 1 cup of the water. And sometimes you don't need both cups, just depending on the humidity. Sometimes I need a little bit more if it's hot outside, but today it's kind of rainy and cool. So you can start mixing this with your hand, but I have this little Danish whisk that works miracles. So I use that to get started. Okay, so now I'm using.
So Angelita, when did you first hear about a plant-based diet?
I had just gotten married, really. I got married in March, and I guess it was May, June, July of that year. My husband and I were sitting down and we were trying to watch something on TV, and we came across a documentary called What the Health? And we're like, oh, what is this about? So curiosity, really. So we started watching it, and when we finished watching that, I looked at my husband and I said, I am not cooking any more animal products in our home. And I said, I go, so if you want to eat that stuff, you're going to have to eat it outside the house. You know, don't bring it in here. Don't bring it for me to cook. There's plenty of restaurants out there that'll serve you that unhealthy stuff. I said, but I'm not going to do it. And he was like, oh, okay. So I started eating that way, and within 2 weeks, I could tell such a difference. I was sleeping better. The swelling in my ankles was going down, and but I didn't know a lot about whole food plant-based. I just knew a little bit about eating plant-based. So a friend of mine told me about T. Colin Campbell, the China study. And so I started trying to find YouTube videos on that because I really don't have a lot of time to sit down and read. And then it came across that you could do eCornell and take a course. So I immediately jumped on that and I took that Cornell course, plant nutrition or plant-based nutrition. And as soon as I started that course, I was like, that's it. It's whole food plant-based, very, very minimal processed foods. And this time I did it for the health. I did it because I was sick and tired of being on medications. I was taking 5 prescription medications. I wasn't getting any better. And it was around that time that my mom had passed from diabetes complications. She had a massive heart attack in her sleep. And she'd already had her leg amputated. And she wouldn't listen. I was trying to help her, but she wouldn't listen. And I was like, I don't want my children to have to see me that way, because I was following in her footsteps. You know, there's some footsteps you want to follow that your parents show you, and there's some that you're just like, no. When we went to her funeral, we came back home and I was looking at the pictures, and all the women in my family looked the same. We all looked like little butane barrels, the kind you see outside in someone's house. We're all about this tall and we're all round. And I still remember we're all talking about different medications that we're on, like it was something to be proud of. And so then I started the whole food plant-based way of eating, and I was talking to a lady who's a nurse in Spartanburg, and she started telling me about the conference that Dr. Neil Barnard holds once a year in DC. I can't remember, the ICM conference, I believe. And she's like, you have to be a student to go, or something like that. Well, I was taking the Cornell class at the time, so I signed up. I was like, I'm gonna go just to see what it is. I went there and I was blown away by the information. I have never been one to be at a loss for words, but I just sat through that whole thing just thinking, my whole adult life, you know, I've been lied to, thinking that if you eat less of the bad stuff, you're going to get better. And it was very eye-opening. And so I walked up to the Food for Life booth and I asked them, I said, how do you become one? And they're like, well, you have to do this process. And I was like, I want to be one. And so they gave me all the information. I signed up, I submitted my video, and they called me and asked me, you know, if I'd be interested. And at first I thought it was a joke. I was like, there's no way me, you know, I still get kind of emotional about it, but I was like, yeah, okay, yes. And so I still remember when I was buying my ticket and getting my hotel room and all that to go over there. I was just amazed. It's been a very beautiful experience. I came off of my 5 medications. I've lost over 40 pounds. I went from, at my biggest, I was almost a size, I was a size 22, but I wouldn't go buy one. So I forced myself into a size 20 because I was like, no. And so now I'm at about 8, 10. And I do have people to say, well, you know, you're still kind of big, but I'm like, you know what, but I'm healthy. I have no medical issues, none whatsoever. I'm off of all my medications. The only thing I take is vitamin B12 and vitamin D. And that's all I take. So I've helped people. I've got private clients that I go and I teach them at their home. And I teach at the Charles Lee Center, which is like some type of medical facility here in South Carolina. And I also started teaching vegan cooking at a place called the Cook Station, which is almost like a Williams Sonoma. And then I do the PCRM Food for Life classes as well.
That's amazing. That congratulations on your health success and your professional success getting accepted to be a PCRM cooking instructor.
Thank you. It's been a whirlwind. It's been beautiful. I mean, it's just amazing. Okay, so I might add just a little bit more water to this because it's not to the consistency that I wanted. So I don't know if you've ever made corn tortillas.
I actually took a class once at a Mexican restaurant and I made flour tortillas years ago, but I haven't made corn. But you know what I have done is just taken frozen organic corn from Costco, defrosted it, put it in a food processor, and then put it on dehydrator sheets. And it's like that, you know?
Oh, wow. I will have to try that.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
So when you're making corn tortillas, your masa has to be, of course, very pliable. It feels like Play-Doh. But when you're making gorditas, it has to be just a little bit thinner. And when you know that your dough is ready, it's when it no longer sticks to your hand or to the side of your bowl. So it takes just a little bit of elbow grease. No pun intended. All right, so I'll show you what the dough looks like. Can you see that?
It does kind of look like Play-Doh.
Yeah. I wish you could smell this. It still smells like it just got roasted. It just finished roasting. So let's see. Move this around. This is just about ready.
So your mom didn't join you in healthy eating, but did any other friends or family join you?
Well, friends, I've got my best friend, her husband is trying it. He has a lot of medical issues, so he's trying. She's been working hard as well to do that. It's just sad because, you know, it's like some people just don't want to give up certain foods or a certain lifestyle. They feel like they're missing out. But if they could only see themselves on the other side of it just for 30 days, they would be like, why didn't I do it a long time ago? One of my sisters is doing the keto. She's like, I'm doing clean keto. And so I just support her as much as I can. She feels better, but I wish she could see what it's really doing to the inside of her. She's a cancer survivor as well.
Wow. And that must be tough to watch that.
It is. It's heartbreaking, but you know, you gotta kind of just choose your battle. Some people get so offended when, you know, when you tell them, hey, that's not working, it's actually devastating your body. So I'm just like, well, it's hard. It's very hard to.
Do you teach your PCRM cooking classes in person, online, or both?
Both. Yeah. And usually it's so funny because the PCRM classes, the Food for Life classes that I've taught is individual people. It's just like a husband and a wife or just the wife. For some reason, getting a classroom together, I guess people are still kind of scared. I mean, other Food for Life instructors are having success. I don't know if it's just because I live here in Greenville, South Carolina, that maybe they're still a little bit hesitant, but it keeps me busy. And when I do them online, I do have about 1 or 2 people that do that because they're more like, okay, I just want a class on this or just a couple of classes on that. So I'm just like, okay, wherever you need me, however you need me, I'm there, you know, even if it's just to ask me questions or even if you just want me to just watch over you while you're cooking and kind of instruct you like, no, you don't want to add that. Let's switch this out, you know. So however I can help in any little way, I figured even a tiny step is better than no step at all.
Absolutely. I would imagine though, there must be a lot of fun doing the class in person because then they can actually taste the food.
Yes, yeah. That's what those are my favorite because they do taste the food and they're like, well, this isn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. And I'm like, well, it's not bad. It's healthy. You know, I said this is what food is supposed to taste like, not all the fat and sugar and salt. Because once you taste salt, I said you're going to want more. And then the sugar is just, I know with me, whenever I have anything that's sweet, especially like first thing in the morning, I just crave sweet stuff all day long. So I have to be very careful with that. And then the thing I like about eating whole food plant-based is that I eat until I'm full and I don't feel guilty about it. Because I suffered from anorexia when I was in my late 20s, early 30s, and bulimia. And I was so good at hiding it, no one knew that I was going through it. They were just like, oh, wow, look at all the weight she's lost. And then I got pregnant with my daughter, and she's 25 now. And I remember going to the doctor, and I hadn't gained any weight. And they told me that if I did not start eating, that's when the doctor found out what I was doing, that they were going to have to put me in the hospital and force feed me. And I was like, oh, okay, well then I'll start eating. But through my whole pregnancy, I only gained 11 pounds. So it was not healthy. Luckily, my daughter was okay, but it devastated a lot of stuff in my body. And I'm still going through the effects of that. And all that just to be skinny because I was so tired of people calling me La Gorda, which, like I told, means the fat one. That was my nickname. So I was like, I'm so tired of being called that. I want to be skinny and pretty. That was my, But then finally you grow up and you're just like, well, you know what? I just want to be healthy. I just want to be healthy. All right, so now I am going to make the salsa real quick. And you do not need a blender. I mean, you can put this in a food processor and just blitz it until it gets the way you want it. You can put it in the food processor, or you can use a molcajete. I'm not about to use a molcajete. Let me show it to you real quick. Excuse me. Let me go grab it real quick.
Absolutely. Mortar and pestle. That's how they used to make pesto a long time ago. And some people still use it today. I've taken salsa making classes where they use that. You don't have it though.
Yeah. So you've got this one, and I will use this sometimes when I'm making just a little bit of salsa, but this is a lot of work. And but the flavor is different. The flavor is different in each in the different ways that you choose to make your salsa. So some people roast it, their tomates and all that, and then some people boil them. I prefer to roast it because it brings out the natural sugars and it enhances the flavor even more. All right, so let me grab this out of here.
What's the plant-based scene like in South Carolina?
It's starting to pick up. I'm only like 45 minutes from Asheville, North Carolina. And so we're giving them a run for their money. We've got some nice restaurants over here. There's one place in Greer that is called Thai Vegan. And that was actually pretty good. I took my sister there one time and she didn't believe that it was all vegan food. She's like, there's no way you're sneaking meat into this. I was like, no. There's a couple bakeries here that are catering to the vegan way of eating. Now, as far as whole food, plant-based, we don't really have much. But they're trying. So we'll get there eventually. And you are where, Chef?
I'm in Southern California. You know, when you said that a lot of people didn't want to give up their favorite foods, they don't have to give up their favorite foods.
Well, yeah, that's true. That is so true.
They just have to find a healthier way to make them.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. That's where we come in, right? So we can show them.
Yep. What's a day of eating look like for you, Angelita, usually? How do you start your day?
In the mornings, I'm usually having, I usually don't get hungry until about 9:30, 10 o'clock. And so I will have usually like corn tortillas, like some type of taco, soybean and potatoes, rice and beans. Probably have 2 of those, and I'll have some fruit. And I still drink black coffee. I did give up everything else, but I just drink black. I've been drinking coffee since I was about 7. So I'll have that, and then I drink lots of water. That's all I drink is either black coffee or water. My lunch is, again, usually whatever I had left over from the night before. So some type of vegetable, some type of grain. I keep potatoes in the refrigerator, sweet potatoes, baked or regular potatoes, and I'll put them in my air fryer and bake them here. And then that way I always have them ready. So I'll just take those out. I always have rice and always have some type of bean and hummus. That's the other thing that I eat a lot of because I thin it out and I use that as like a gravy almost, or for my buckwheat noodles, or I'll add some garlic or some hot sauce to it, and then I'll put that over my vegetables, and it works. Or I'll add some nutritional yeast to it and thin it out with a little bit of oat milk, and it kind of gives it this cheesy, creamy flavor, and that goes really good over your potato.
Sounds great.
All right, so we've got just a little bit of juice in here from where we roasted. And you can see I lined this with parchment paper because I don't ever cook directly on aluminum foil. But this helps me from having to do all this cleanup over here. All right, and excuse me while I turn this on real quick. Well, of course it wouldn't work for me.
Never works when you need it to, does it?
I know it. Okay, here we go. Ooh, that smells good. Now, if you really want to impress someone and you want them to think that you made the salsa in your molcajete, you take it out of there and you put it in here and you sit there right there. You don't ever say a word. Just like, yeah, I did all that by myself, by hand.
That's very clever.
I'm holding here so you can see what it looks like. And I keep 3 different types of salsas in my refrigerator at all times. Just depends on what I want to eat that evening. So that is
Wow.
what it is.
That's beautiful. That's what I love about when I work at Rancho La Puerta is they have fresh salsas every day. They have a pico de gallo mild, a pico de gallo hot. They make a green, a red roasted one, and like a tomatillo one. And they make one that's, I don't know what it is, but it's like brown and it's like my favorite.
Oh, is it made with guajillo peppers?
I think so. And it's like, it almost tastes like chocolate. It's rich and thick. And it's like the best thing I've ever tasted. It's smoky.
Yeah. Yeah, so guajillo peppers and chile ancho, which chile ancho looks like a giant prune almost. Has chocolatey notes, and that you toast that and then you boil it and then you make a salsa with it. Oh my goodness, it's absolutely amazing. Okay, so now I'm gonna put this back in here. And while I turn this back on, I'm gonna put this on air crisp at 375. And what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna start getting my beans ready. And those are gonna be really quick. It's not gonna take long at all because I bought these organic black beans and then I rinsed them. So this it has 130, what is that, milligrams of sodium, but I rinse them to kind of take out as much as I can. I can find the salt free. Or you can make them yourself, but you don't have to use white beans. You can use soybeans. You can use any kind of vegetable that you want, really, to stuff these with. So to give them a little bit of flavor, I took cumin seed and I toasted it, and then I put it in my spice blender. And so I've got toasted cumin here to add to this, and it just kicks it up another notch. The flavor really intensifies with that. I've got a little bit of organic paprika, and I'm probably using 1 teaspoon of the cumin to 1 can of beans, and the same amount of paprika, just 1 teaspoon. And then another thing that I just found out about this one probably about a month ago, is black limes. I pulverize them, and so I use this instead of salt. And all it is I find this at the Indian store. You can get like 6 of them for $3.99. And then I just mash it down with what used to be my meat tenderizer. And then I put pieces of it in my spice blender, and you get this black powder, and it just smells like fresh lime. And so I'm just going to add about half a teaspoon of this to my beans.
I never heard of that before.
It's amazing. I put some of that. I sprinkle that over my salsa also when I fix my plate. So it just brightens everything up. Okay, so while that's cooking, I'm going to make the gordita. So there's a few ways to make the gordita. One is by hand. You just pat it out by hand. Or they've got this little gadget right here. And so it's just made out of wood, and it's got the little indent on the inside. And so you're going to line this with plastic. So like a heavy duty Ziploc type of plastic, just a little square. And you're going to put one on the bottom of this little press, and then you're going to hold the other one out for a minute. Okay, so that's already heated up. And then if you don't have the little press and you don't want to do it with your hands, I'm going to show you how to do it with the back of a plate. So you're going to take about I guess twice the size of a golf ball, maybe the size of a tennis ball of the dough. You're going to roll it in your hands. And what you have to do is you have to make this loud noise. This is the fun part. Get everyone involved at home. There's something about the friction when you're hitting it that when you go and you make your gordita, it will cause it it will cause it not to split on the edges. Okay, so you take it like this, and what you're going to do is you're going to fold your index finger, well, the first two, and then you're going to put a little indent in the center of the dough. Almost like that, like you're doing a dumpling almost. And right in there, is where you're going to add your filling.
What kind of air fryer have you been using?
I use the Ninja Foodie, the 5-in-1, the square one. So it's a grill, it's an air fryer, a dehydrator, it bakes, and it roasts. And I use this thing probably 2 to 3 times a day. So all you're adding is like a spoonful of your filling.
Wow.
Now, right in here, depending on how hot you like it, you're going to add your salsa. Now, the salsa is spicy, so, try it out first. When you get this done, then you're going to bring it together. Can you see that?
Wow, it's like a little pie.
Yeah. Yes. So you're going to bring it together. And then we're going to roll it back into the little ball. It's almost like a magic trick. So you've got it like this. Now you're going to put it in. You can put your plastic on top, and then you're going to mash it down. Well, I didn't put it exactly in the middle, but that's it. That's the beauty of making this type of food. It's not perfect. Okay, so when you mash it down, this is what it looks like. But what you want to do is you want to move it around in your hand, and with your thumb, you want to press and go around. That way you have the same thickness all the way around. That way it cooks evenly, because if not, you're going to have one part that's cooked before the other one, and it'll cause it to be dry. And, well, let's face it, nobody wants that. Okay, so we've got the first one. Put it face down directly on your air fryer. Okay, so if you don't have one of these little gadgets, you do the same thing like I was doing prior. And this one, we're just going to do it with our hands. If you've had a bad day, Chef,
you're really good at you're good at slapping that dough.
All right, so we're going to do the same thing. And same process. There we go. And here we go. This is how you do it with your hand. You might want to let your filling cool if you can't handle too much heat in your hand, or if you have your children helping, you don't want them to get burned. All right, there we go. We got the other one ready. To me, doing it by hand is a lot faster. All right, and if you don't want to do it by hand, this is the other way you can do it. So, you know, these. I did not put any salsa in that one because that was for my son. All right. Do the same thing.
Are there alternative, if people like say have a gluten intolerance, are there alternative flours you can use?
Well, there's no gluten in the corn.
So there's no flour whatsoever in Gorditas.
None. No.
That's amazing.
Yeah, now there are some people that put flour in it, but if you're going to do that, you can use oat flour. Yeah, so I think it's usually they put like half a cup of regular flour into the masa, but that just depends on what region you're from. We never did that, but there's some gorditas that they make that are sweet, and they'll add flour to those.
It's amazing how pliable it is, because just watching you, you would think you were working with white flour.
Yeah. All right, this one's for my husband, so this one's going to have a lot. All right, so we're doing the same thing.
Has he changed his eating at all, thanks to you?
He did. It's funny enough because he is a Marine, and when I told him that I wasn't cooking, and he's like, "It's not meat and potatoes, it's not a meal," whatever. So you can still have the potato. And he's 100% vegan now. So when he has to go, he's deployed or what have you, I meal prep for him. So we get not the healthiest stuff, but we do get him like the Loma Linda, and then he takes the brown rice and the rice mix and the quinoa mixes and the little packets that he can heat up while he's out in the field. But yeah, he's done pretty good. He came off of his was it statin, the medicine you take for high cholesterol? He's completely off of that.
That's okay, fantastic.
So we're doing it the third method now. What you do is you take a little plate, and it has to have a little lip on the bottom. And all you do is press down gently. Oh, I forgot to put the plastic on there. That's all right, it came off. All right, and then just go back and seal. And again, go around to make sure you have the same thickness throughout the patty. And we got the third one.
Can you freeze these either before or after cooking?
I would freeze them before. Afterwards, I haven't tried that only because I hadn't had any left over. So, but yeah, you can get them ready like this. And then just put them in between parchment paper, wrap them in plastic, and then stick them in a freezer bag and just put them in your freezer. No, they're good to go. They should last about maybe 2-3 months in the freezer. So what I do now when I'm air frying, I use just a water bottle. This is just full with water. You can use aquafaba or you can use vegetable broth. It's just a little sprayer. I just spray it and I close it and I let it cook for about 5 minutes. Take it and then I flip them, spray them again and let them cook for about another 5 minutes. And it gives them that golden crust on there and that crunch when you go to bite into it. And the other thing is, depending on how long you've been using your air fryer that day or throughout the cooking process, they tend to get hot and they retain the heat, the fryer does. So sometimes it might not even take 5 minutes. Sometimes it might only take 3 minutes. So everybody's air fryer is different. So just kind of peek in there after 2 or 3 minutes just to make sure that it's not burning.
What kind of things do you eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner on a daily basis?
I eat a lot of vegetables. I just recently, about 3 months ago, subscribed to this food co-op. And so then every 2 weeks I go and pick up this box and I'm always surprised with what's in there. And so it challenges me to try new recipes. And there's a local Latin market over here close to my house. And I go there on Tuesday mornings because they have these dollar bags because I'm very frugal. And I'll show you what I got today for $1. Hold on, let me show you. So I got green plantains and I got poblano peppers. So it's always some type of vegetable. These, I roast them and I keep them in the freezer. And I asked the lady that's in charge of the produce section there how they cook these because these are different than the yellow ones. So these are more of a starch base. So they cook them more like you would a potato. So I'm going to be experimenting with these, but I eat a lot of poblano peppers, a lot of rice, a lot of beans, a lot of broccoli. I love broccoli and cauliflower. I used to hate cauliflower, and now it's almost creamy to me.
And sweet almost. But when you stop eating so much processed food, vegetables even start tasting sweet.
Yes, I was amazed because I started, I can't remember who it was. I think it was probably you. Oh yeah, because you were interviewing Dr. Doug Lyle about the pleasure trap. So I went and bought that book. I sat there and I read that thing, and I'm not embarrassed to say that I cried through some of it because it really helped me heal and understand my whole cycle of why I did things the way that I did them, and not just necessarily with food. And then I was like, it all goes together. It's crazy how everything just kind of connects. So it's helped me heal mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. So tell Dr. Doug Lyle and Dr. Goldhammer, thank you from the bottom of my heart for that book. And I recommend it to everybody. When I first go meet with someone who's having a lot of issues, I was like, before we even start, go get this book and read it. And then they have some ammunition as to why they're doing what they're doing, and then I can help them heal on this part, and then they can start helping themselves heal through the other parts.
That's great. Do you have time for any exercise?
Ma'am?
Do you have time to exercise in your busy day?
Funny enough, I run a construction company during the day.
You're kidding. Well, that's why you're so good at constructing gorditas.
Yes, yeah. So I run a stucco, stone, brick and block and concrete company. So I'm out there loading stone, unloading blocks, picking up 80-pound bags of concrete mix, walking up and down hillsides, lots of inclines. I get plenty of exercise doing that. So yeah, that's my exercise.
That's fantastic.
Plus, I like being outside so much. So I'm like, okay, let me go check on these job sites. Yeah, that's what I do.
That's
So
cool.
this is my passion. That's what pays the bills.
Right. Do you ever wish you had found this information sooner?
Oh my goodness, yes. Yes, absolutely. I wish that I would have known this when I went on my very first diet. I still remember I had just gotten married the first time, and I went on a diet. Well, let me back up a little bit. I grew up in a migrant household. So that means that we would travel throughout the states, depending on the season, to pick crops. And so we were always working. They called me La Gorda, but I really wasn't fat. I was just very muscular. And so I remember I had no fat on my body at all. And I was ashamed of it because you could see the muscle in my arms and in my legs and in my stomach. I got married and I had my son, and I remember I was soft. I remember touching my stomach going, ooh, this feels weird. Well, a year later, it still felt weird. And I was like, okay, this is not normal. So I went on a diet. I had no idea what I was doing. And I remember going to a buffet and thinking, okay, well, if I eat just a baked potato, I guess that's healthy. But I was putting cheese, sour cream, and bacon bits, and ham, and blue cheese dressing. And I couldn't figure out why I wasn't losing weight when all I was eating all day long was probably 5,000 calories of a baked potato. So I really wish I would have known all this. But I actually grew up eating this way, eating whole food, plant-based, but unbeknownst to me, that's what we were doing. Because we didn't eat a lot of meat. We ate eggs once in a while, but we were always, we were working. So my mom, I still remember she used to boil potatoes, and we would have boiled potatoes sometimes for lunch. And my favorite sandwich growing up was just mustard and lettuce in between two slices of bread. That was my absolute favorite sandwich. And my mom used to tell me, she's like, you're weird. Why aren't you eating anything else? I was like, there's something so refreshing in the lettuce. I could taste salt, something salty in the lettuce. But yes, I've taught my 3 older children about this way of eating. And I'm trying to teach my 12-year-old. Sometimes he's on board, sometimes he's not. But yeah, it's been a beautiful experience. It really has. And I have no desire at all whatsoever to go back to the standard American diet. I see people eating that way, and it really grosses me out. I don't go to restaurants because I literally get nauseous when I see people eating, and I'm just like, oh, if you only knew what you're doing to yourself. If you only knew what you're really giving your baby. All right, so put this over real quick. And this is almost done. So I get a question all the time, and maybe you can help me with this. In as far as roasting roasting vegetables. It's like, how do I roast vegetables without using oil? Especially if they don't have an air fryer. I hardly ever use my oven. So I always tell them the same thing, aquafaba or water or vegetable stock. But do you have any other pointers that
well,
I
I think I think just using an air fryer is the easiest way, honestly.
Yeah. Yep. My oven has become my extra pot holder. So it's full of trays and pots and pans. I mean, I don't even use my oven at all. It's my air fryer, and I've got an electric tortilla press that cooks your tortillas at the same time as it presses it out. I use that, and then my toaster oven. I very rarely use my microwave, but that's it. And then my stove, and it's the same pan all the time. Cleanup is a lot easier.
What about an Instant Pot? Do you ever use one of those?
Yes, I have an Instant Pot. I love it, especially for cooking beans. They come out perfect every time, every single time. And then I have a rice cooker as well, but I use the terracotta pots, the Mexican terracotta pots, to cook my rice in. Because my rice cooker, for some reason, it comes out too mushy, or it comes out too dry. So the terracotta pot, maybe it's because I grew up using those. But yeah, I got the big size Instant Pot. That thing is amazing.
How do people connect with you, Angelita, if they want to take your classes?
They can go to my website, which is www.earthseedsandwater.com, and it's all spelled out. And then you can connect with me on Facebook, on Instagram, and you can email me directly from that.
Nice. Which one are you most active on?
Instagram probably, and then from Instagram it just automatically goes over to my Facebook. Yeah.
Nice.
And then I just got on TikTok, I think like a week ago. But sometimes I feel like I'm not tech savvy, because there's some things that I'm just like, I don't even know how this works. So yes, I have to call one of my kids. I was like, hey, can you show me how to do this? Even my 12-year-old knows more about this tech stuff than I do.
I know, it's a whole different world.
All right, these are done.
Have you ever thought about writing a cookbook with some of your favorite traditional Mexican recipes made healthy?
Yes, as a matter of fact, that's in the process right now. And it's with the editor right now. I've got a children's book. And it's called, the book is called the Seed Sowers. And so it's about these children that they're walking in their neighborhood, and they stumble into a community garden, and then they show them how to plant seeds and how to harvest them. And then there's a few recipes in there that just for kids, of course, to be supervised by their parents. So hopefully we'll have that to the publisher probably in June. I'm hoping in June, but I don't know. I'm still waiting on a couple of illustrations on that one. But these are the gorditas.
That looks so authentic. I mean, they are authentic, but they look incredible.
Yep. And then you just, if you wanted a cream sauce on here, you could do the cashew cream sauce, or you could do the hummus. So you just take the little container hummus. I think, what is it, 6 ounces or 8 ounces of just the plain hummus, and I add half a cup of oat milk to it, and I add 2 tablespoons of nutritional yeast and just a little bit of garlic powder, and just cook it until it gets into like almost like a gravy, and then I just pour that over it. It's amazing.
Well, it sounds amazing. Will you let me know when your book comes out? I'd love to have you back on the show to promote it, but let me know a few months before it comes out.
Absolutely, I will. I will, absolutely.
I just love your creativity.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I'm so honored. Oh, wow.
Oh, no. But how often do you teach your PCRM cooking classes?
Well, it just depends. Sometimes it's weekly, sometimes it's bi-weekly. Just depends on my my client's schedule.
Right. Wow.
It's usually in the evenings because I work during the day.
Yeah, that's so cool. Have you gone to the PCRM conference yet, where all the cooking instructors get together?
I think that's the one that well, no, let me see. Well, I went to get licensed, and that's when they did it in Los Angeles, like right before the pandemic. And then I went to their conference that they had in DC with Dr. Barnard and Dr. Dean Ornish and his gorgeous wife were there. I met Pamela Popper, and then I met Brenda Davis. Everybody's just so down to earth, so inviting. Just it's a lovely, lovely, lovely community. Everybody is so helpful.
I agree. Well, we're grounded because we all eat plants.
Yes, I like that. That needs to be a t-shirt.
Absolutely.
I love that.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. You're very, very creative, and I think people will really appreciate being able to have some of their favorite foods like this in a more healthful manner.
Well, thank you very much. And if there's anyone who has a favorite Mexican dish that they don't know how to transition it, please contact me and I will help you through it. I love recipe development.
Yeah, me too. It's so much fun. Well, thank you so much, Angelita.
Well, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. And thanks to all of you for watching another episode of Chef AJ Live. Please come back tomorrow when we will have another fabulous cooking demo from Thomas Allen, also known as Tommy Bahama, the founder and CEO of California Balsamic Vinegar. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.